Hey guys, this is our video for the 6.05 daily practice. We're going to start with our investigation. So we have Dwayne was taking a test and he got 20% of the problems wrong. If he got 40 points, how many total were on his test? So we're going to start out with thinking the question says he got 20% wrong, and then it gives us how many positive points he got. So we need to start with saying if he got 20% wrong, how many did he get right? And we can do that with subtraction. So we got 80% right. Now we're trying to find how many points were on the test to begin with. So this is like an original amount. So when I go to set up my proportion, I can say 80 over 100 equals, he got 40 and he also got this 80. So we're going to put 40 on top, x on bottom. You can grab your calculator to cross multiply and divide, and hopefully this problem actually looks familiar because we've had it on a couple do nows now. So we're going to do 40 times 100 to get 4,000, and we're going to divide that by 80, and we've got 50 questions on the test. So what I want you guys to think about as we get ready for today's lesson is just how is solving for an original, like we did in our example above, different than what we did yesterday, which was finding that modified amount. If you think about the proportion, we have like a visual of how it's different right here. We can see that the variable is lined up in the denominator of our proportion. So if we have a proportion, our variable's in the denominator. If you went the equation route, you'd have to think about the triangle, and you know that we have the percent, we have our modified up top and our original on bottom. So if I'm trying to find the original, remember, cover up what you're trying to find, and we're actually left with division. So if you have the equation, instead of multiplying, you would be dividing instead of multiplying. So it's kind of reverse. So for our key points today, the first thing that I want you guys to think about is where did we start on our investigation? This was our first step, and you have to do this step first in every time you're trying to find an original amount. We got to kind of think backwards. So we're going to need to add or subtract with 100% first. It's really, really important that that happens first. And again, it's because our thinking kind of has to go backwards in this case. When we set up our proportion, we're still going to have our percent out of 100. We're going to have our original amount on the bottom. And again, this is going to be our variable today, and our modified amount up top. Again, since we're thinking backward, x is going to be on the bottom. Method 2 is the equation. Again, we're trying to find the original amount. So if you cover up original, you're left with modified divided by that percent as decimal. So it's going to be division. And again, make sure that percent is after you add or subtract. It has to go in that order. Now, once you're done, we're always going to double check. Since we're thinking backwards, it's going to be a little different. If I'm given, say I'm given a price after a tip has been added, my original price should be less because I did an increase. So after an increase, if you're finding the original price, it's actually going to be lower. So always double check, does my answer make sense? Every single time. So we're going to see some examples. Again, you can use a calculator, but make sure you're still showing your work for everything. So we have Sivan buys a new chip for his mouse. He paid $8.50, but it was on sale for 15% off. What was the original price? Let's do an example first with a proportion. So we know it was 15% off, so we're going to start with our subtraction. I'm subtracting again because it was percent off. 100% minus 15% is 85%. So now for my proportion, I'm going to say, all right, this 85% was $8.50. So what was the original price? All right, I'm going to cross multiply. We're going to do $8.50 times 100 which is going to get me 850. Now we're going to divide that by 85, and we're going to get $10. So original price, $10. Now let's think through it. If the original price is $10 and it was 15% off, is he going to pay $850? Yes, that makes sense. If he had a sale price, his price would be lower, so the original price should be higher. Awesome. Next one we're going to try with the equation just so we can get both types of examples. We got Miss O'Hare is buying concert tickets for the price of $65. However, she later finds out she missed the original price and had to pay a 25% markup. What was the original cost? So this one is a markup, so let's take our 100%, and because it's a markup, we're going to add 25%. So our percent for this equation is going to be 125%. Now we know that original cost equals modified over percent. So if we plug in those values, we should be good. Modified amount, her price she paid was $65, and that was after 125%. Now this percent needs to be a decimal, so if I have 125%, we can divide that by 100 to make it a decimal, and we get 1.25. So now go to your calculator, and you're doing 65 divided by 1.25, and we get $52. Again, let's think through that, make sure it makes sense. She paid $65, and that was after a 25% markup. So if it was a markup, then the original price should be lower. 52 is lower than 65. We're good. All right, last one. A student earned a grade of 85% on a math test and earned a score of 30. How many problems are on the test? This one is actually not an increase or decrease, just says they earned 85%. So they got 85% out of 100. They also earned a score of 30, so if they earned 30, 30 is my modified. Again, cross multiply and divide. This one's a little easier because you didn't even have to do an increase or decrease. We know that, again, because it says they earned a grade of 85%. Now we're going to cross multiply. Let's see, we still need to divide by 85. Go to your calculator. 3,000 divided by 85. Looks like 35.29. Not a great number, but there it is. Maybe they had partial points or something. 35.29. All right, so again, remember your key points, you guys. Let's scroll back up just so we can review them up here. I want my highlighter. There we go. So first one, finding the original amount, add or subtract with 100% first. Then you have two options. You can use a proportion or you can use an equation. Doesn't really matter how you solve, but that's what you need to do. If you're going equation, make sure you're making your percent a decimal. And then always, always double check. I cannot emphasize that enough. With these problems, you're thinking in reverse, so you really need to think through, oh, if I had an increase, my original should have been lower. Think through your answers, make sure they're reasonable. You guys got it. Good luck.